Hi everyone, I thought I'd share with you a deck which I recently bought. It's a mini version of the Oswald Wirth deck, or should I say the Oswald Wirth deck, brought out by Lo Scarabeo. Now I like minis, and I got this because even though I don't read Tarot de Marseille really, I thought I'd like a Marseille deck to use with my special weather forecast spread. It turns out that this might be not the ideal one, but I'll tell you more about that in a second. Now, just in case you don't know the background, I'm going to call it Wirth because otherwise it's a bit pretentious to say Wirth all the time. The Oswald Wirth deck was created in 1889, and then in the 1920s, after the RWS came out, Wirth created a souped up version with golden images. Now, this was a major arcana only deck. It was based around the Tarot de Marseille, but it's only majors. He never did the pips and he never did the courts. So you go into your tarot shop and you get a deck like this, and lo and behold, it's 78 cards. So when you buy this deck, unless you buy just a major arcana version of it, the rest of the deck is basically, you could say, fake. It's airsats. It's been added on, hasn't it? There were some add-ons created in I think the 60s, and there were some other versions created in the 21st century. Okay, long story short, the US Game Systems version, I think, even though it's said to be badly produced, it has pip cards and court cards that look more authentic. I was aware when I bought this one that the pip cards and the court cards were not going to look authentic, but I thought they might look a bit kitsch and they might look a bit fun. There's a court card looking a bit kitsch and fun, but the joke wore thin, actually. It's not kitsch enough and fun enough. But we'll talk about that as we go through the deck. Before we start that, I want to say something about the experience of buying this deck. And I have a theory that there is a slight disconnect sometimes between producers and consumers of tarot decks. Because, let me put it this way, when you walk into a shop and buy a packet of tarot cards, you're excited, aren't you? Because you're doing something a bit magical, and this is probably it might be a hobby, it might be your profession, it might be your passion, it might be your obsession. And so, you're excited about your tarot cards. I mean, you're not spending that much money on it, are you? But you are excited and you want to feel cared for by the person who produced these. Now, when you buy, food in the supermarket, it says there is product information. It tells you what this food is and what's in it. When you buy the Symbolic Tarot of Wirth, published by Lo Scarabeo, it's not entirely clear what you're buying. I mean, if you've done any research or if you've watched my videos, then you might know. But you think you're buying a tarot designed by Wirth, and you're not. As I've explained, you're buying a tarot, and it just says there, Oswald Wirth, and then without much explanation, it says Mirko Negri, Bruno Letizia. Now, these are presumably the people who designed the other 56 cards. That's not really stated on the outside of the packet. Fine, you get it home, and let's see. You have a quick flick through the little white book, and you have these three names again on the front cover. And then let me read you what it says, because I think that what it says, at least in the English version, is like halfway between a fudge and an outright lie. What it says is this, and I'm going to have to put it like close up to my eyes because the print is so small, so bear with me. It says, in 1889, the 22 major arcana of the Kabbalistic Tarot were published. According to Wirth, it was a deck that could be susceptible to improvement. Consequently, his studies led him to conclude the work in 1927 by presenting us with the Golden Wirth Tarot, which in this version included the addition of the 56 minor arcana. Now, if you read that as plain English, that is a claim that Oswald Wirth made a full 78 card tarot. If you say, oh, they're only Italians, they can't speak English, you could say, well, they've got the tenses wrong. And what it should say is, it led him to conclude the work in 1927 by presenting us with the Golden Worth Tarot, which in this version includes the addition of the 56 minor arcana. Now, that's a big difference. And what they could quite easily have said is, they could have got someone to check the English, and they could have said, this version includes these extra 56 cards, which were designed by our lovely friends Mirko Negri and Bruno Letizia. Now, when I was in the pop industry, ladies and gentlemen, because I was, for my sins, I've been in it twice, but my experience of being a wannabe pop star in the 80s, and I got like halfway, I got a contract with a major record label and blah-de-blah-de-blah. But the impression I got was that the people who produced the pop music, the major record labels, kind of despised the people who, people like me, who were making the pop music, writing and performing it, and also kind of despised the customers, because the customers were just kids, and it really is like 12 and 13-year-olds who buy singles, or it was in those days. And the people in A&M Records, for example, they really didn't respect the little girls and the little boys who were buying our records in no great quantities, but they were buying our records. And you had this feeling of a disconnect between the producer and the consumer. And I sometimes get that with tarot cards. And so I'm a bit... it's not a big deal, but, say what's in the box. Don't fudge it, and rather than couching your fraudulent claims in halting English, get someone to write a proper little white book for you and come clean about who designed the cards. We're going to look at the majors first, and these majors are designed by Oswald Worth. This is the heart of the deck. This is why we love this deck. I haven't put them in complete order, but these are the majors, okay? Okay, so they're lovely, aren't they? As you can see, they're on on the cusp of the old and the modern world. You can see the sort of the stirrings of Art Nouveau, can't you? You can sense that this has got 20th century vibes in it. And it's really ancient as well. So the gold in this Lo Scarabeo version is neither here nor there. It's not particularly impressive, and the cards are perfectly nice. It's a mini deck, and I like mini decks, so in that respect I like it. Here we go. And then one more. Now, I will just show you the kitschy court cards. Now, you've probably noticed that these sketches come from the 1880s, and they're based on Tarot de Marseille, which is a venerable old thing originating in the 17th century. So that's the kind of style of the figures we're talking about here. That's the kind of way that faces and bodies and clothes are being drawn here. So then we go into the court cards, designed by who knows who, someone on the front of the package. And as I say, there seem to be two versions of this rebooted deck, and the US game system version does look more authentic, but that's quite a long way away from this style, isn't it? There is a dissonance there. I like it that they're a bit smaller than the major arcanas. But this is much, much more medieval than this. But, I'm not here to complain. I am partly here to complain because I do love a complaint. And I like a bit of kitsch too from time to time. And I knew what I was buying. I thought that I was going to love these. I don't particularly love these court cards because they're not very subtle. And my question always is, are the court cards better than the RWS court cards or not? And I think in this case they're not. But, you know, have a look. See if they're your bag. And if they are, hoover up a copy. And if you want sort of more authentic court cards in an Oswald Worth tarot, then have a look at the US Game Systems version. So there we go. There they all are. They're all against gold. The whole deck is against this browny, fakey, goldy, bronzy colour, which I don't think is a great thing in its favour. I think it makes it a little bit difficult to read. But what I want to say to you is that there is a surprise in the pip cards. And the surprise is this, that the pip cards, I'm going to show you them by the numbers here. The pip cards have got special little things added to them. So there you go. There's sort of Tarot de Marseille pips. I mean, in the Tarot de Marseille, you should I think there should be hands in the batons and the swords, and there shouldn't be hands in the coins. So we've already gone off piste a bit, haven't we? So this is rather what's the word? A loose interpretation of Tarot de Marseille. But more than that, ladies and gentlemen, we have thematic things coming in here. Each ace has a tiny magician's hat on it, rather absurdly. Where is it? There it is. So they've had fun with the pips, and there's nothing wrong with fun, but it gets a bit out of control later on. There's nothing wrong with a bit of fun, is there? So there you have the 4 twos, and you will notice that each of them has keys, and that's because in this deck La Papesse has keys. Okay, then we have the 4 twos, and there we have the Empress's shield has been added. I mean, I think they look quite chic, but my question is that really what you want in an esoteric cartomantic tarot deck, for these pip cards to be so strongly linked to their numerical equivalents in the major arcana? I think it's it's a bleeding liberty, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? So we've got the Pope's triple cross on the 4 fives. Most bizarrely of all, you have Cupid's arrow and the Lover's shoes on the 6s. On the 7s, you have the head of the charioteer. As I say, I think it looks quite chic, actually. And I guess, I mean, the thing about Tarot de Marseille is that it's quite difficult, isn't it, to know how many numbers are on the pip cards. You've got to, you've got to sit there and check and count. I find I'm just not, what's the word, sufficiently literate in Tarot de Marseille to read quickly with this deck. And here on the 8, you have the scales of justice. On the 9, that's better, isn't it? On the 9, you have the Hermit's lantern. And on the 10, bizarrely, you have the whole of the Wheel of Fortune. So, yeah, there you go, the Oswald Wirth Tarot. joking aside, I think that this is a beautiful tarot, and it is a beautiful 22 card tarot. And I think the problems start when you try to turn it into a 78 card tarot, because you've got to fake it. And I do use these cards for readings when I want majors only. I actually just have one reading in my practice, where I have a deck of majors only in my new spread, the self-generating spread. And for that, these are very nice. They're pretty, they're authentic, they're venerable, and they are an important part of tarot history. That's all for me. I'm Robert Farrar, this is Tea and Tarot, and I'll be back next week with more of this stuff. Bye for now.